First of all, I wanted to be like him. I wanted to dress like him. I wanted to look like him. You know, I took my hair and had it all done up with the curl.
They were titans of Hollywood, their names whispered in the same breath, yet shrouded in endless rumor. A powerful white icon and a groundbreaking black star, their bond defied convention, sparking whispers about motives, sexuality, and the hidden currents of power within the legendary Rat Pack. The gossip, it seemed, was as relentless as their talent. Frank Sinatra, famously private, kept his secrets close. But just before his final curtain call, he uttered a single sentence. A statement that stunned those closest to him and forced the world to re-examine everything they thought they knew. It wasn't an apology, it wasn't a confession, it was an affirmation, delivered with the unmistakable style of Sinatra himself. The year was 1941. Backstage at Detroit's Michigan Theater, a young, charismatic Frank Sinatra, already the lead singer of the Tommy Dorsey Orchestra and a rising star, found himself in the break room. Also on the bill that night, the lesser-known Will Maston Trio, featuring a prodigious 16-year-old Sammy Davis Jr. During intermission, fate, or perhaps a shared sandwich, brought Sinatra and Davis together. Their first conversation ignited a spark, forging a bond that would echo through history. Davis, a lifelong admirer, meticulously collected every article written about Sinatra, preserving them in a special notebook for his grandmother. It wasn't just fame that captivated him. Davis recognized in Sinatra something profoundly denied to black artists of that era: true stage power, the inherent right to command respect and be heard. You make me feel that spring has, against the pervasive backdrop of American racism, where theaters, hotels, and restaurants enforced stark segregation, Sinatra's gesture was revolutionary. For a white artist to initiate a friendly conversation, to share a meal with a black performer, was simply unheard of. While their professional paths hadn't yet converged, Sinatra's quiet influence on Davis was undeniable. When Davis was drafted into the Army in 1944, he confronted racism head-on. Beaten, threatened, and rendered invisible, he chose to fight back with his talent, becoming an entertainer for the troops. His purpose wasn't profit, but to chip away at hatred. During this time, Davis repeatedly watched The House I Live In, a short film featuring Sinatra, who passionately urged Americans to dismantle racial prejudice. Do you think maybe if your father knew about it in time, he would rather have died than to take blood from a man of another religion? Would you have wanted him to die? Would your mom want him to die? The film earned an honorary Oscar, becoming a beacon of progressive thought. For Davis, it transcended art. It was a deeply personal message, a call to action directed squarely at him. After his discharge and return to the stage with the Will Maston Trio, Davis remained a devoted observer of Sinatra's every move. He openly admitted to emulating Sinatra's style, his dress, his walk, even his meticulously coiffed hair. Not to copy, but to learn, to absorb the essence of the artist he aspired to be, a performer unbound by skin color, unrestricted by venue, capable of captivating any audience with pure talent. This era also marked the burgeoning social connections among the burgeoning celebrity class. Sinatra was becoming a fixture in Hollywood and New York's elite circles. Davis, though still a prominent figure in the black vaudeville scene, never wavered in his admiration. In turn, Sinatra began to acknowledge Davis's exceptional talent. In 1947, Sinatra was slated to perform at New York's prestigious Capitol Theater. When asked to choose an opening act, he named the Will Maston Trio, featuring Davis. But he didn't stop there. Sinatra demanded 5 times the group's usual fee, an audacious request the theater was compelled to grant to secure its headliner. This bold move instantly thrust Davis before a predominantly white audience, many of whom were unfamiliar with and even wary of black performers. It was more than just a performance. It was a monumental leap, shattering invisible barriers. 7 years later, tragedy struck. In 1954, Davis suffered a devastating car accident, losing his left eye and facing physical and emotional collapse. Sinatra stepped in, covering all his medical bills. Adrift and unsure of his future, Davis received a call from Sinatra, inviting him to his Palm Springs home. Sinatra, famously averse to hospitals, had to be convinced by his then-girlfriend Cindy B.A. to even visit Davis. But he went, and when Davis spiraled into suicidal despair, it was Sinatra who anchored him. Davis later recounted, "When I lost my eye, the first place I went was Frank's house in Palm Springs because I had nowhere else to go." That raw, unadorned statement spoke volumes. Around this time, Davis's solo career began to flourish, garnering critical acclaim and public attention. But to truly conquer the entertainment world, he needed to establish himself in Las Vegas, the nation's entertainment capital. Yet Vegas remained a deeply segregated city. Black artists, despite performing in grand casinos, were forced to sleep in blacks-only areas outside the city center. This injustice persisted for years until Sinatra raised his formidable voice. He flatly refused to perform at any venue that denied Davis equal lodging. At the Sands Hotel, he issued an ultimatum. Either Davis stayed in the same hotel or the show was off. The Sands capitulated, setting a groundbreaking precedent. From that moment on, Davis was no longer an outsider in Las Vegas. In 1958, Davis found himself embroiled in controversy when he began dating white actress Kim Novak. The interracial relationship ignited a firestorm of opposition from studios and the public, especially in states where interracial marriage was still illegal. Whispers suggest Sinatra fiercely protected Davis from the wrath of Columbia Pictures, where Novak was a star, reportedly confronting the studio head directly to diffuse the volatile situation. While the full extent of his intervention remains unclear, the fact that Davis wasn't blacklisted from Hollywood during this maelstrom speaks volumes about Sinatra's powerful protective shield. That same year, the legendary Rat Pack was born, featuring Sinatra, Davis, Dean Martin, Peter Lawford, and Joey Bishop. Initially dubbed the Klan, Davis's objection to the Ku Klux Klan Association led Sinatra to readily change it to Rat Pack. As the group's undisputed leader, Sinatra consistently created space for Davis's self-expression, even amidst the sometimes uncomfortable racial jokes. Many speculated that Davis was merely a token, a novelty to draw attention. However, those who observed the group closely recognized Davis as an indispensable member of the Rat Pack's very fabric, a position meticulously crafted by Sinatra. Some theories even suggest Sinatra's inclusion of Davis was a calculated move, not just born of friendship, but also a strategic play to project a progressive, non-racist image, thus earning the admiration of Hollywood's intellectual and left-leaning elite. These theories aren't entirely unfounded, especially considering Sinatra's later political shifts. But if it was a ploy, it was one that undeniably benefited Davis, granting him opportunities, fame, and protection few other black artists of the era could dream of. For over a decade, Sinatra not only shielded Davis from scrutiny, but also paved his way forward. It wasn't a verbal promise or a written contract, but a consistent, unwavering series of actions, both backstage and on stage. This was the bedrock that transformed their friendship into something far deeper than just artist and patron. Yet this intense closeness began to show cracks, both within and outside the Rat Pack. The line between playful banter and genuine offense blurred, leading to months of simmering tension. During the Rat Pack's heyday, their Las Vegas shows were the undisputed epicenter of American entertainment. The group wasn't just performing music. They were a whirlwind of rapid-fire humor and constant joking, making audiences feel like they'd stumbled into an exclusive, unscripted party. Sammy Davis Jr., with his breathtaking all-around talent, was often the brightest star on stage. But it was within this very dynamic that the unsettling imbalance between him and the other members began to surface. Davis frequently became the target of racial jokes. Sinatra and Dean Martin sometimes called him Smokey, or made jokes about his skin color, his voice, even his physique. Under the dazzling stage lights, Davis laughed along, playing his part. The audience roared. The press hailed it as no-holds-barred camaraderie, and promoters eagerly exploited the wildly successful formula. But behind the curtain, Davis's discomfort grew. Within the African-American community, especially among civil rights activists, Davis faced increasing criticism. He was branded Uncle Tom, a derogatory term for a black person perceived as sacrificing dignity to appease white people. Public articles openly questioned why Davis, a celebrated artist, would allow himself to be a laughingstock during a nationwide struggle against racial prejudice. Davis offered no public response. He continued to perform with the Rat Pack, but internally, conflicts began to fester. In 1959, tensions reached a breaking point. Davis appeared on Chicago's The Shay Show, where he praised Sinatra as an early mentor, but also criticized his rude and disrespectful behavior in certain situations. The comments swiftly reached Sinatra, whose reaction was immediate and explosive. He reportedly unleashed a tirade of racist slurs at Davis, who was then summarily fired from the Rat Pack's upcoming film, Never So Few. For months, every door Sinatra could control was slammed shut in Davis's face. Davis desperately tried to make amends, apologizing in letters, through intermediaries, and in person. Sinatra refused to meet. Only after Dean Martin intervened and Peter Lawford mediated did Sinatra finally agree to let Davis back into the fold before filming began on Ocean's 11. But their relationship was never quite the same. Davis understood his reliance on Sinatra, not just professionally, but for everything Sinatra represented. Years later, Davis admitted crossing a line he shouldn't have, but he also left behind a telling statement. "I know who's in charge, and I know where I stand." This incident irrevocably altered the public perception of their relationship. It was no longer simply a heartwarming tale of two friends transcending racial barriers. The stark reality of power dynamics was laid bare. Davis, no matter his immense talent, had to carefully calibrate his opinions to maintain his place. Years later, Rat Pack members would occasionally allude to the incident without delving into specifics. But according to Peter Lawford, it was during this period that Sinatra was most demanding and tough on Davis. And Davis, for his part, endured it all, as long as he had the chance to share the stage with the group. After the radio feud of 1959, Frank Sinatra and Sammy Davis Jr. entered a new, more reserved phase of their relationship. Outward emotional displays became rarer, but their actions spoke volumes. Despite his initial fury and exclusion from a major film, Sinatra's decision to allow Davis back into the Rat Pack underscored a non-negotiable truth. The boundaries between friendship and power within the group were firmly drawn. Davis learned to walk that line. Throughout the early 1960s, both men became deeply involved in the burgeoning civil rights movement. Sinatra leveraged his immense influence to organize a landmark benefit concert for Martin Luther King Jr. at Carnegie Hall in 1961, an unprecedented event for mainstream entertainment. Davis, now a nationally recognized figure, also performed and raised funds at numerous other events. Behind the scenes, they tirelessly pressured Las Vegas hotels and casinos to hire more black employees and dismantle segregation in services and lodging. One of the most dramatic confrontations occurred at the Sands Hotel, a regular Rat Pack haunt. When a black couple was denied entry to the performance area due to their skin color, Sinatra halted the show. He demanded that management change their discriminatory policy immediately, or he would cancel his contract. The hotel capitulated, ending its segregationist rules. Davis witnessed the entire scene, remaining publicly silent, but later confessed in an interview, "Frank didn't have to tell me anything. I saw him do it." When John F. Kennedy was elected president in 1960, both Sinatra and Davis were ardent supporters. Sinatra rallied Hollywood to Kennedy's side, while Davis was slated to perform at the presidential inauguration. However, when news of Davis's marriage to white actress Mae Britt became public, Kennedy abruptly canceled his performance without explanation. Advisors feared the image would negatively impact his political standing in the southern states. Davis was devastated, though he said little publicly. Close friends confirmed he felt utterly betrayed, excluded from a game he had helped build. Sinatra, though initially a strong Kennedy supporter, gradually distanced himself from the White House after this incident. Sources suggest he never forgave Kennedy for his treatment of Davis, and the Sinatra family's relationship with the first family cooled significantly. Again, Sinatra offered no public statement, choosing instead to withdraw. In 1963, when Sinatra's son, Frank Sinatra Jr., was kidnapped, Davis was among the first to offer support. Amidst the chaos, Davis maintained constant contact with the Rat Pack, helping to buoy the Sinatra family's spirits during the frantic search. There were no public expressions of gratitude, no photo opportunities, but insiders confirmed Davis's unwavering presence. It was in these private, unpretentious moments that the true nature of their bond shone brightest. In the 1970s, Sinatra's political leanings shifted from Democrat to Republican. He became less vocal on racial issues, while Davis continued his active participation in programs advocating for equality. Despite their diverging political paths, their personal connection remained. Even in 1972, when Davis sparked controversy by publicly hugging President Richard Nixon, causing a backlash in the black community, Sinatra was the one who advised him to just live with your choices. Years later, both men passed their prime. They reunited under somber circumstances. In 1987, Dean Martin's son, the other remaining Rat Pack brother, died in a plane crash. Davis was battling laryngeal cancer, and Sinatra's health was failing, yet they agreed to embark on an international tour with Liza Minnelli. Many called it the last Rat Pack reunion. Though their voices might have lost some sharpness and their steps some swagger, the undeniable spirit between them was still palpable. They stood together until they literally could stand no longer. On May 16, 1990, Sammy Davis Jr. succumbed to laryngeal cancer, ending a career spanning over 6 decades as one of American history's most influential black artists. Upon hearing the news, Frank Sinatra canceled all his performances for the week and flew to California. At the funeral, he didn't merely occupy the front row, he served as a pallbearer. When asked to speak, his words were simple yet profound. It's hard to sum up a friendship of more than 40 years in a few words. I wish the world could have known Sammy the way I did. In the years that followed, scholars and journalists revisited the pivotal moments in the lives of these two iconic figures. A frequently cited source is Sammy Davis Jr., A Personal History with My Father, 2014, written by Davis's daughter, Tracy Davis. In her memoir, Tracy reveals her father's profound gratitude to Sinatra for opening doors, for guiding him out of the shadows of segregation. Yet, she also recounts his internal conflict over the relentless jokes, the subtle pressures, and the unspoken control he endured during their time together. Davis understood that this was the often painful price of striving for equality with white artists, especially in an era where a single misstep could derail an entire career. Sinatra made no further public statements about Davis in his later years. After 1990, he largely withdrew from the public eye, his declining health limiting his appearances. When he passed away on May 14, 1998, exactly 8 years after Davis, newspapers recounted their relationship as a testament to a friendship that transcended prejudice, politics, race, and the relentless churn of industry gossip. FBI documents released after Sinatra's death reveal no mention of any serious internal conflict between the two men. There's no record of Sinatra ever expressing remorse for his behavior toward Davis, nor is there any hard evidence supporting rumors of a romantic involvement. Such stories, from sexual orientation to power dynamics, largely reside in the nebulous realm of public imagination, leaving no tangible trace in official records. The true affirmation of Sinatra's friendship with Davis comes not from spoken words, but from his consistent actions over more than 5 decades. He could be hot-tempered, controlling, and notoriously rude. Yet, he was also the unwavering champion who stood by Davis when it truly mattered. He might not have denied the rumors, but he never abandoned Davis when he was under attack. And while periods of tension certainly existed, the distance between them was never permanent. The relationship between Frank Sinatra and Sammy Davis Jr. may never be neatly encapsulated by a single statement. But that hardly matters, because Sinatra's final, poignant words at Davis's funeral, "I wish the world had known Sammy the way I did," were his ultimate confirmation. Behind all the gossip, all the speculation, all the arguments, one truth remained: profound respect and an enduring, genuine friendship. If this unforgettable journey through their lives resonated with you, share your thoughts in the comments. Like this video if you appreciate such extraordinary friendships, share it to spread their story, and subscribe to the channel for more meaningful behind-the-scenes insights.